welcome to this week's Fixing Football podcast. This is episode 91. This week, we're going to be talking about the Americanization of our beautiful game. Are we selling our souls to America? Is this what's going to be happening further down the line? Liam is here with me. Liam, how are you doing, mate?
Very good, Martin. Very good. Selling our soul, it's a big start. It's a big question you've posed there right from the off there, Martin.
Well, would you want to change up the format a little bit? Bit of admin, bit of housekeeping to take care of. I want to get straight into the topic this week. Well, first of all, what have you been up to? How's things?
Very similar. You know, the health routine. Stepping it up on Couch to 5K, week 4 now. If anyone who's done it starts to get a little bit more serious at week 4. So yeah, that's been quite hard. That alongside the healthy eating. What I'm finding is because I'm exercising quite regularly now, I'm hungrier. But I suppose that means it's working, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
The old calorie deficit and all that. So yeah, looking quite good. What about you, Martin?
Well, I'm hoping to be back to running this week. I've rested my Achilles long enough for those who've been listening and listened to me moan about my injuries. Hopefully I'm on the mend, so I need to get back out running for the Manchester 10K, which is in May. Had a couple good gigs this weekend. I was in Liverpool and I got home late though, and it was 4 a.m. and there was a bird, and I could have swore this bird was singing Kendrick Lamar out the window.
Oh, an actual bird, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, an actual bird. The songbird at like 4 o'clock in the morning going. I don't know if the mic picked that up. Giving it all that.
It didn't pick it up. Was that not like us you were doing there?
It was that. It was that one. It's going to be the thing.
Yes.
I can't get this song out of my head, and then this bird's giving it some right outside my window at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that has been stuck in my head ever since. Right, let's get into this week's topic, Liam. America, Team America.
Yes.
Are they coming?
The nation. Let's get stuck into the nation and culture of America.
So, first of all, just off the top of your head, have a wild guess. How many clubs in the 92 do you think have direct or majority American involvement in their ownership setup?
That's a very, very good question. And obviously I do research for the podcast before we come on it.
No, this is.
But I will admit,
I
was going to say, I will admit, I didn't look at the numbers for the 92. Although, as part of our discussions previously, we both knew that this was quite well on the rise in terms of investment in the 92. Yep. So, if I was going to pluck a number out of thin air across the whole 92, no, I'd say 30.
You're not far off. It's 22.
Oh, okay.
With, unsurprisingly, the majority of them coming from the Premier League. We've got 11. It's looking like 11 in the Premier League, with 9 of them being the majority shareholder. 9 in the Championship, 8 in League One, including your favourite mates, Birmingham and Wrexham.
Is it 8 in League One now?
It is, mate. But that shows the size of the clubs in League One as well, to be honest. And 3 in League Two. I don't know the teams off the top of my head, but
the thing with League One, and I don't want to get straight into the topic and things like that, but there are benefits to buying in League One, particularly if you buy a bigger size club in League One, because they're not under the same PSR rules as they are in a Championship or Premier League. So for every £1 invested by an owner, you can spend £1 in wages, essentially, in League One. It's a different set of rules, which is why it's a little bit more attractive and why Birmingham have gone bigger this year than people forget this ownership was there last year. They could go bigger this year, really, because essentially they've got a year to write it off under the Championship's PSR.
It does beg to wonder why an American consortium haven't come in for Bolton. It never ever seemed like it was on the cards. It always seemed very much a home. I was going to say homegrown talent, but
yeah, that's not actually the case. As much as Sharon Britton is the front of Bolton Wanderers, they do have quite a lot of external ownership in Switzerland. There is a Swiss
there is consortiums involved, but I'm talking about the big conglomerates from America to come over with a club with the what you call relatively recent good history from Bolton Wanderers. Post 2000 and with the stadium and the infrastructure they have in place, there's it seems like a club ripe for the taking. If you look at Wrexham, for example, a lot more work to be done at Wrexham.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I suppose that takes us into straight away what we want to talk about as to why this is happening, isn't it? So,
well, why? Go on. This is what I was going to pose to you a second ago. But why is the Premier League and English football so appealing to the American financiers?
There's loads of reasons, in my view. For those that have watched Welcome to Wrexham, which I have, I've not watched the most recent series because it's getting too close to Bolton, so then it started to not be cute and funny anymore. But one of the first things that they talked about was the idea of the pyramid being a real allure to sports fans, particularly American sports fans, because investing in American sport is very exclusive. There's only so many teams, and they cost a fortune to invest in. It is incomparable in terms of valuations. There is no Wrexham to invest in. So
that's because I was looking at the sort of ownership structure of MLS teams, for example, just to see if there was any foreign investment in American teams, and there isn't really, other than the obvious David Beckham at Inter Miami, and I think there is is he Thai or something at like Colorado or somewhere like that? I'm not sure. And again, I have no MLS knowledge other than that it exists. But if I remember, wasn't Beckham getting the rights to a franchise part of his original LA Galaxy deal? And the same is with Messi's deal.
Is it?
So the MLS I can only liken it to maybe UFC, is that the MLS own everything and everyone, and all the teams are franchises and subcontracted off the MLS and then owned and funded and financed by, billionaire owners of, varying wealth and degree of celebrity. So if you look at like Los Angeles FC, which was the new rival to LA Galaxy, which is owned by a load of celebrities, including like Will Ferrell, and Mia Hamm was involved and stuff like that, and Austin FC, which has got Matthew McConaughey involved and a few other people like that.
Oh yeah. Is he involved in Chelsea in a small part as well, Matthew McConaughey? Am I?
Well, maybe there's some Clear Lake tie-in.
Yeah,
there's some potential there. But anyway, yes, all these teams drip down from the governing body, which is the MLS, which is the equivalent of like the Premier League owning all the other teams. Where the Premier League is actually made up of, the Premier League board is made up of the 20 teams, which was sort of the opposite fashion here. So no, and you're right, it doesn't. What you're talking about, the pyramid, and that you're suggesting that the pyramid is the alluring factor to the Americans. We'll talk about it in a little bit further, but yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll come to that in the cons section of when we start talking about. I think we both know where we're going with that. So it is in terms of investment, because essentially with a Wrexham, for example, to use the most recognisable example people will have, for the money that they can put into that, and it is substantial, of course it is, but it's not. We talk about this a lot. The idea of football money in comparison to the real world of business is nothing. The money that gets put around in football compared to actual, so these billionaires, it's nothing for them, really, particularly to do it at that level. And what they can essentially do is bring themselves into the Premier League with a certain amount of investment, and then have access to the TV deals, the global sponsorships that are involved in it, and hugely increase the value of their business to then do what they want with. Would they want to resell it? Bournemouth is an amazing example of this. In their previous owner, not the American owners now, are looking to take it to another level.
Yep.
Under Bill Foley, they're looking to take it to Champions League and all sorts now. And good luck to them. But the previous ownership, who I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head, he's taken them from a League Two club into a Premier League / Championship club, and earned hundreds of millions off the back of doing that.
Yeah.
And that is the dream. That is absolutely the dream. And don't forget as well, the celebrity status that comes with owning a football club. If you can own a business where the revenue's a couple $100 million, there are so many of them in the UK that you would never know the owners of. You be sat in a Costa with them, never knowing it, and they own a huge business. You are not a celebrity. You buy a football club, you're already a celebrity.
Yeah.
Essentially. So it gives you access to other connections and gives you a certain status that you wouldn't get by owning anything else.
Yeah. So, question then: are you worried about this getting to let's just use the Premier League for example? I'm not sure what the deal would be across the 92 or the other 72 teams, but we know that the Premier League is major decisions are decided by a 14 club majority. So 14 votes gets X decision passed, and we are now at, let's call it 9 majority shareholders of Premier League clubs, with a couple more large shareholders being from America. If that number gets to 14, are we looking at some big changes for the Premier League? And are you worried about that?
It's a very good question. And it's something that certain people are talking about, but a lot of people aren't, I would say. Gary Neville's talked about this quite a lot, hasn't he? He's been very vocal on it, to the point where he's been accused of being anti-American. And I don't think he is. I think that's unfair. And I think it comes from a lot of... And this is becoming a bit of a problem, I think, with the top 6 clubs, is that you can't have a conversation anymore about other top 6 clubs if you're a fan of a top 6 club, because it's almost like you've got a political agenda. So it's a little bit like how it is in Spain with Barca and Real newspapers, how people from top 6 clubs... So Gary Neville can't talk about American ownership without it upsetting an Arsenal or a Chelsea fan who just assume he's against them, if you get me. Even though United, of course, are probably most famously owned by American owners. But I'm not worried. The answer is a little bit, because not necessarily because of, I think, what people jump to this conclusion of franchising, they'll get rid of relegation. I don't think that necessarily will happen. But I do wonder what direction it would take initiatives, because in American sports, you are very much consumers, not fans. That's the culture. And that's how it works over there. So I do worry that if there is a safety in numbers with these collective decisions that can be made, that the rules may see the game becoming even more global in terms of the Premier League's product being even more global than it already is. And that would concern me.
So the game becoming more global inevitably takes it away from local / legacy fans, if you will, if you want to. I don't like to use that phrase, but the 79-year-old guy who's been going since he was 12 and standing on the terrace of one old stadium and going into the next and stuff. These guys are likely to be the ones priced out first. The guy who takes his 3 kids on a weekend, who's already spending £400 upwards every Saturday to take them, they're going to get priced out, because there'll be family tickets, there'll be tourist tickets, and there'll be all sorts of other things.
Well, we're seeing this happening. We're seeing this happening increasingly. We've seen it at Tottenham with that sort of raising of the senior threshold to the point where if you're not got one now, you'll never get one, I think was the way. Man United famously, like, it's, there's a different story every day with this type of stuff at United. And Aston Villa, a little bit with the car parking and the Champions League tickets. It's starting to happen a little bit. And all these clubs, surprise, surprise, have ties with America. I know Tottenham's a little bit different, but it's not a coincidence that it's these types of clubs that this is going on with. So
I don't want to just harp on the fact of Americans coming into our sport and ruining it and painting everything red, white, and blue and doing the national anthem before every game and stuff like that. But because I think there can be some good to come from more Americanizing of the game, and I'm not saying fully because I'm definitely more in the no camp here than the yes, let's get it more in, more money, more stuff, more shiny things. I'm definitely in the more of a traditionalist camp, but there is good things that we can take from an American influence in the game.
Yeah, because essentially what makes the Premier League so good is the amount of money that it generates through broadcasting, which then filters into wages, which means that we've got essentially a product that's so good in terms of the players. So, yeah.
Well, I want to just ask you about that. I have another little quiz for you.
Oh, go on.
The most valuable sports teams in the world. Teams.
Okay.
How far down the list do you have to come before you reach the first soccer team?
So is this estimate, or is this based on actual sale prices and then extrapolating value?
Yes, all that. And this is a list in January from Forbes. So this is quite recent.
So I think that you'll have 2 or 3 NFL teams before a Premier League team. I don't think it'll be as many as you think. So I think maybe like Denver Broncos might be like the number one.
I'm going to tell you, the first time a soccer team, a footballing team, turns up on this list is in the 19th position.
Oh, wow.
And that's Real Madrid. Followed by in the top 50 in most valuable sports teams, we only see Real Madrid, Manchester United, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, PSG, and I'm going to put Manchester City with a little asterisk in that because they show up as well.
Okay. That's it then, isn't it? I mean, look at the potential.
The top 18 are all NBA and NFL teams.
See, NBA is a mad one, isn't it?
Yeah, this leads on to, and that even includes Formula One teams like Ferrari and Mercedes, who have shown up in this top 50 list in the past, but don't anymore. If you look at teams like Arsenal,
it's sports, isn't it? That's why.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Start seeing Luke Littler in this list. So off the side of that, I have the top 10 most profitable sports teams.
Just out of curiosity before you move on. I know you banned cricket from the podcast, but are there any IPL no Indian Premier League teams in there?
Not even close.
Did wonder on that, but go on. Fair enough.
I would honestly expect a live golf team to show up before a cricket team.
Oh, I don't know, but the IPL is outrageous money. But fair enough.
Let's have a little quiz, and people can join in as they want at home. But so this is the most profitable sports team. So again, this is a list by Forbes. I'll give you a clue that more soccer teams show up in this. And I keep saying soccer because we're dealing with an American list and a lot of American teams. But
so most profitable.
So this is like how much they would generate over a 3-year period or something like that.
How many guesses do I get? Is it? Can I go for the highest ranking soccer team? Is that what you're asking me to go for?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Celtic.
No, not even close. Most profitable should be the clue, though.
That's what I thought, though, with player sales that they get. Tottenham.
Tottenham is correct. They are number 3 on the list.
Outrageous, isn't it? But that's an episode all in itself. We've been discussing amongst ourselves a little bit Tottenham recently, haven't we? Like everybody, with the money that they've got compared to what they invest in wages. But
can I tell you number 1?
Yeah, go on then.
It's the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you have any idea when the last time Dallas Cowboys won a championship was?
Do you know what? I feel like I looked at this recently because I got reading about the Super Bowl. Was it in like the 80s?
It's not recent, yeah.
Yeah, it's ages ago. Because when I was growing up, I don't know anything about NFL. I'm not going to turn this into one of those NFL/wrestling type podcasts. But like, if you'd have asked me 2 American football teams when I was growing up, it'd have been Denver Broncos and Dallas Cowboys. They'd be the ones that I know of. Now I know that there's other ones that are more famous or better. I know the Patriots maybe, or
let me. I'll complete the list for you, and
Go
I'll
on.
fill in the little few blanks. But so, by the way, Dallas Cowboys is over $1 billion dollars in terms of profitability over 3 years.
Wow.
They're valued at over $10 billion.
Yeah.
Absolutely blows every other sports team out of the water. By the way, no one comes close in terms of what they have in terms of reach. They have the AT&T Stadium, which it's been selected for one of the World Cups, but it's not a new stadium. It was built in like 2008.
Yeah, it's not where Canelo fought Billy Joe Saunders there, AT&T.
I don't think so. I think that was the T-Mobile in Las Vegas.
No. Anyway, go on.
I might be wrong.
Yeah, we don't need to get bogged down in that.
The New England Patriots, who are second on the list, they are a team who most people may be familiar with. They've had a big time.
A dynasty, haven't they?
A dynasty under Tom Brady. So they are a worldwide recognised brand, mostly part of being successful on the pitch.
Helps. Not for Tottenham, obviously.
Well, this is it. Then Tottenham. And then you get to a lot of other teams. New York Knicks. They have been shit since the day I was born. I went there. I had a fantastic time watching them. They won, but they haven't won anything since. I don't think they are rubbish. They are perennially rubbish, and they are an ultimate tourist team, and they sell it at Madison Square Garden every night. So
they play a lot of games in basketball as well, don't they? I think that always surprised me.
But they have
like in basketball.
Season.
Yeah, but it's like you have to like a game every other night, nearly, don't you? In terms of I didn't really realise that until I watched that Michael Jordan documentary, like how many games he actually played.
Let's get through this list. Manchester United show up next. Again, not very successful. Relatively more successful than some of the other clubs on this list over the last, say...
Biggest club in the world as well.
Well, they're up there. Houston Texans, they haven't won a championship for a long time. Golden State Warriors have been sort of successful. They're in LA. They're also, next on the list is the LA Lakers. They're a worldwide brand. I sort of get that. The New York Giants are on this list as well. They haven't done anything in our lifetime. An NFL team. And last on the list was Manchester City. Again, I'm going to put a little asterisk next to that because we all know why. But anyway, those are the most profitable teams. You've had the most valuable sports teams. So my point is, Americans know how to make money.
Oh, yeah.
We're dealing with a list of teams here. 18 sports teams, franchises, whatever you want to call them, on this list that are above Real Madrid, the by far and away most successful football team of the last 50 years is Real Madrid. And there's 18 teams, including like fucking San Diego Chargers or I don't know. Las Vegas Raiders are classed as a more valuable team than Real Madrid. They were only formed 3 years ago.
I was going to say, there's kids on the podcast younger than them.
Exactly.
Older than them, sorry, yeah.
So, there needs to be some acceptance. We can't be so stubborn to not accept the money that's coming in, that can come in, that what we can do for the game. And as I said at the start of the podcast, are we selling our soul to do so?
I think, what's I suppose from a financial perspective, what's the difference between that and Sky? Really? There isn't really. And this is what it's all been built on. So, touching back to right at the start of this little section, in terms of money coming in, you can't think of any people better, can you, really? Like, for the reasons that you've outlawed there. And what's quite interesting, and something I hadn't really considered until you were sort of reeling off the numbers, is the potential of the Premier League, even though it's still what we can see is at the summit of world football, really, in terms of domestic leagues. Yeah. It sounds like, in terms of it actually, from an entertainment perspective, and that's what we're talking about here, competing with the NFL and NBA globally, then there's still room to grow. And I think that makes it even make even more sense why you would buy a Bournemouth, for example, where you think that they've grown the full maximum when really when you look at those numbers, no, they've not. And essentially, when those next deals start to happen, you want to make sure that you're inside the tent pissing out, and you're in position to essentially get the best possible deals.
I wonder. I have a question. It wasn't on my list, but it's just come to me. But do you think there is a United States will always keep investing until there is a swell of talent coming from America in terms of the actual players? Because historically, they have the greatest athletes we've ever seen on the planet come from the Americas. The sprinters in terms of athletics. You look at just the feats that some of the greatest sports stars have come from America. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. These are legends and icons of more than their own sport. They transcend anything that someone can do in just one sport. But they don't produce any good football players.
Well, I agree. I mean, there's obviously still a gap from where they are now from where they want to be. But I don't really think it's about that from the individual's perspective. I think it's just more the potential to earn money. What I would say is, whilst we don't have many amazing Americans in the Premier League at the moment, or at least none come to mind. I'm sorry if I've missed someone. In Serie A, there's quite a resurgence there of American players doing very well. Like, I think at Juventus, you've got McKennie and Musa. Are they both there now?
Pulisic is doing well again.
For Milan, yeah. There's quite a lot of Americans on the continent, maybe more so than it's going a little bit under the radar, I would say, how many of them are playing across Europe, like the European big leagues. So
Anthony Robertson started to do well at Fulham.
I mean, he's a Scouser, so I mean,
yeah. He's the Brendan Diaz of the American team.
So he's just completely Scouse. Like, it's just stupid. But anyway, he'd be playing left back for England now. But anyway, don't want to question someone's nationality. I don't want to be that guy.
I think, right, the one thing, the most obvious bad point of Americans coming into the game would be taking games away from the UK, from off these shows. Is that inevitable? I know we've spoke about pacifying it with things like the Community Shield and the Carling Cup, the League Cup, sorry. With pacifying it in that sort of way. But as we've seen in the NFL, that we sort of get the schedule through, and they're doing all Europe now, not just 3 games at Spurs Stadium. They have one in Madrid, there's one in Italy, there's one in Japan, then they're going doing 2 in Australia. Like, they take the NFL all across the world.
Well, yeah. Is it inevitable? That's a good question. I think Barcelona very recently tried to do a game there, and that was a domestic league game, didn't they? In America, was it Barcelona Atleti? Tried to do that.
They were talking Birmingham Wrexham game, wanted to get out to America. I know it was
welcome to stay there for me. But I don't want to put this just on America, because it's not. It's just that there's a lot of America now. And that's the danger. Right, yeah, that's the danger, is that it becomes dangerous that they've got that voter block. That's my issue. Not necessarily that it's American people investing. It's just that it's only really America. Yes, there are some other investors, but nowhere near to the same level as what the money coming in from America is at the moment. So, is it inevitable? Probably, but I would say, if not there, it'll be Saudi. I don't think that's just a purely American problem. And we've talked in previous podcasts about ways to placate this, and I sort of stand by them a little bit. I think it's an inevitability, and if we don't do it in the Premier League or EFL, La Liga are desperate to do it, or La Liga clubs anyway. La Liga push back, I believe, actually, but La Liga clubs seem desperate to do it.
Well, then we've seen their version of the Super Cup, or however you want to call it. Both we saw the Milan derby and the Classico being played out in Saudi. So
yeah, fiercely contested, by the way. They weren't dead rubbers by any means.
No,
I didn't. I watched both of them games. I know I need to get a life, but I watched both of them games, and they were very.
They beat Real Madrid 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1, and Real Madrid started very well. I think it was the first time I saw Mbappe look like Mbappe for Real Madrid in that game in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and I was like, and that Milan derby. That was the last minute Tammy Abraham winner.
Yeah.
So yeah, really fiercely contested. And as were the semi-finals. So it was like they were both 4 competitions, weren't they? Knockout and then final. So yeah,
I want to get to the point of our worry here is what they can do. Let's play out some worst case scenarios of what 14 American owners do.
What do you think's the biggest fear? From your perspective, what do you think the number one worst thing you can see happen is?
Is a breakaway of them 14 clubs into some mini non-relegation Super League of just Premier League teams that are owned by Americans. That is catastrophizing worst case scenario in my opinion.
Yeah.
What reality, I think, in reality, worst case scenario would be stuff like taking games away from the stadium that are in the Premier League, taking games on the road. Again, we talk about inevitability, but yeah, that's where I feel what I feel. I mean, do you see that playing out?
I don't think it's likely they break away with no promotion relegation, because I think the relegation battle is such an important part of the Premier League brand, particularly in years where there's a runaway leader. So
yeah,
it can be very problematic when it isn't competitive at the top.
That's what we talk about in NFL and the MLS especially, is that once a team has broken away and you're down to 2, is it the East and West Coast, the divisions, that once there's a runaway winner in either of them leagues, everything just becomes a bit stale.
Yeah.
Whereas some form of relegation could, turn things up a dial, and you could also to bring out. They're adding San Diego team next year in the MLS. There's then going to be Messi's team in God knows how long. They've got rid of 3 teams in the previous years, so there's room for another 5 more, say, in the MLS if they wanted to expand the East and West Conference. The NFL as well dies on its ass until it's time for the Super Bowl to catch up. So
yeah,
this is what I'm worried about.
Yeah, 100%. It's. I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's very much a legitimate concern, because it is how they run things over there, and there is safety in knowing that you can invest and still have access to those. But it's not about being in the Premier League per se. It's about having access to the broadcast deal that you get from being in the Premier League. That, if you took away that risk, they would very much be up for it, in my view.
What do in fact, before I get onto that, I want to talk about some more good stuff that America could bring us. Apart from loads of more money.
Shouldn't take long.
There's sort of 2 things that blend into one, but the show of it, and this is also, I've got this in my negatives list as well, by the way, but the show of a game, and I've having to been to, like I said before, I went to the Knicks at Madison Square Garden for a game. It was a nothing league game. It was the equivalent of Fulham v Bournemouth. It was a nothing game, but it was like I was watching the World Cup final. It was brilliant, and I was right up in the top of the arena. It was getting T-shirts fired at us. There was chanting going on. It was class. I'm saying it out loud now. I know I sound like Johnny Tourist, but
no, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like,
it's almost the point of the Knicks, is what is.
Yeah, look, people don't like football tourism, but there isn't. I mean, that's a separate podcast in itself. Really, we could do that separately, but there is a place for people to go and see nice things in life. Like, that's kind of what you're supposed to do, really. You know what I mean? Any of these like self-help podcasts, I was like, oh, go and travel, go and learn, and then we're like, fuck off! Like, this is all no new people allowed. So there is a room for tourism.
And also put in like the experience. There's a way that they do things in America that is just on a bigger, better scale. It always has been the case in terms of production. I do a lot of music stuff, but no one does it like them. in terms of producing a show, and sports events have become very much on par with that. Even if you look at stuff outside of stadiums, like I don't know if you've seen that Cosm. It's the large like cinema theatre sports bar where you go in and you basically
yeah.
That is fucking incredible. I wish they'd bring that to. Well, really wish they'd bring it to somewhere in Manchester so it'd be easy for me to get to. But just bring it to the UK, because I think things like that, as very American as they feel, they enhance it for everyone. So I think there's good things to be learned or to be gained from their influence coming into the game. Bad things. Now, you spoke about relegation. I think relegation is one of the factors when, let's say, certain less educated people coming into our sports are worried about. They don't want to see their team that they've just invested $1 billion go down.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, and when you say that, you kind of get it, don't you? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just how it works. The
Like,
benefit of the pyramid works both ways. The pyramid, you can't have it both ways. If you want to invest and buy it for 50 quid at the bottom, you can't be annoyed when they drop out. So that's the main thing. It's not just that, by the way. It's more about the rule changes regarding the broadcast deals and what that could mean. I just think
But how could that change for the worse? I don't know why anyone would be worried about that.
No, it's just the self-interest of having X amount from one country.
Yeah.
It cultures that align there. It just means that it just makes it difficult in terms of like genuine like negotiating something that could be better for everybody when it's an ownership group from one part of the world. In my view, that isn't England, by the way.
What if we're looking at the 3 o'clock kickoffs being moved to 6 o'clock because it's a little bit better for American viewing? And
yeah, I mean that's a real possibility. I think that'll happen anyway. In truth, La Liga's been doing it for years, really. In terms of their kickoff times are all over the shop.
For 10:15, some of them. I know.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's particularly Barca and Real for their international audiences. But I'd be shocked if that didn't happen at some point. But then again, one of the fundamental problems of the Premier League is that who actually is watching Bournemouth versus Fulham, really? And I think that's the issue. That's a problem with the American ownership, is that they become too, in my view, purely on the bottom line. So then we'll end up getting a Big Six bias through essentially the numbers. So, it's just difficult for me.
Have we missed any points there that you want to cover?
No, just what do we need to fix it, Martin?
You know what? I don't have a fix for this one right now. I know that's sort of counterintuitive to what we were talking about, but I think things can be fixed if and when they turn up. How I was catastrophizing it earlier with breakaway Super Leagues and stuff, the fans will unite in situations like that.
I agree, but I also think in an ideal world you could cap the amount from a country, but you can't really do that because promotion and relegation makes that impossible. So, with the independent regulator here, you have some rules essentially you have to sign up for that are completely non-negotiable. So things like promotion and relegation to the top division, these types of things. Now, it wouldn't be too invasive. It would be the absolute pure things of the rules where things like that are completely protected. I think that's the only way around it, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. But
thank you.
Like I say, if let's say you want everyone to agree. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But I just think the biggest changes we will see plenty noise coming from fans, and especially match-going fans, because they were the ones who made the most noise when the Super League reared its head first time round.
Oh, and that will come right round again, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Again, with talk of limiting a certain group of people once they get to a certain number. Even if they did put that in place, you're only going to see faceless consortiums start taking over instead, and there'll be ways around that. If I can think of one, I'm sure multi-billionaires can.
Yeah, I also don't want to make it sound like I'm turning into like Nigel Farage and saying we're full, by the way. And like, that's not where I'm going with this. But I just worry about voter blocks. That's all. But yeah, I think we've covered everything there.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time if that was the only thing you was worried about it. Right, let's have a quick break. While we're on a break, please can I remind you all to subscribe and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to. Over 50% of people who listen aren't doing one of them things. So just click that button. We'll have a break, you have a break, let's all have a chill, and I'll see you in a few minutes. And we are back. Right, second half of the podcast, we're going to get into some more local, general chit-chat topics, Liam.
I think so. Usually what we get at the start, but now you get it at the end, because it's the what you have to wait for.
Yeah, usually this segment is reserved for me moaning about some VAR decision or lack of transfer activity, but
one thing you won't be doing as an Arsenal fan, Martin, is moaning about their injuries. That's not the Arsenal way, is it?
Who's moaning? I ain't moaning.
Definitely not Arsenal. No matter what. Everyone noticed this weekend, Arsenal didn't moan about their injuries, everyone. This
isn't the Postecoglou podcast. This is the Arsenal fixing podcast. No, it's a good result, though, for us.
Yeah.
It looked like the game was slipping away. And I'm going to highlight someone in a second, but...
what did it look like, Martin, to you? As a team chasing the title, what did it look like?
Listen, the lack of signing a striker, plus the inevitable injuries, it's like no one was listening to everyone saying, you need to sign a striker. I said at the beginning of the season, when we had a full fit squad, that we needed a striker as well. We didn't get one. It is what it is. It's like I'm almost at the point now where I've written us going for the league off, and you've made your bed, lie in it. There's nothing else you can do now. This is the squad we've got. This is what we're stuck with. I don't feel like there's any point in mourning it. Arteta's not mourning about it, like publicly. I'm sure he is furious about our lack of activity behind closed doors. I'm almost certain of it.
Maybe. And we had a chat on Saturday night where we both echoed that same thought. What's changed my view since then a little bit was watching Liverpool in the Wolves game and looking at them and thinking, they're not what they were a few weeks ago. And that changes it a little bit for me.
It does, but it doesn't. Liverpool dropping points, which I think we was all sort of sure that they would do at some point. It would be incredible for them to carry on the way they have been. But like at some point they're going to drop a couple of points here and there. Even if they drop enough, I just don't think we've got it in us to get them to get their back, be ahead of them. I think we'll be all right. I think we'll just coast it to second, and that'll be it. That's pretty much it. I just think it's done now. I'm relaxed in that fact as well. If something crazy comes off now,
it's a big 2 weeks. It's a big 2 weeks because of who Liverpool play and how quickly they play them. So they've got Villa away on Wednesday.
It is.
And then is it City away on Saturday? And then it's another. Is it Newcastle? It's another tough game. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head.
Might be Newcastle. You might be right. Regardless of that, yes, they have got a good run of fixtures coming up for us. But we've got who do we play? Forest away and then Man United away. They're easy games. We should win them. I don't think the other teams will score that many, one or two. But
Forest have gone off the boil a little bit, despite Chris Wood still scoring every game. They've gone off the boil a little bit, and United seem to turn up for these big games, I would say.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a big 2 weeks. I agree that, in my view, I think it's Liverpool's to lose, definitely. They've got almost 2 months on the trophy, especially if they'd held on against Everton. But they didn't. So it could look very different in 2 weeks. I'm not saying that just to sort of give you any kind of false hope, but that's just the truth. Like,
No,
there is a sequence of results that could bring you right back in the mix in the next couple of weeks.
Very much so. And I hope that it happens. I'm not saying, and like I saw Ian Wright say this week, that I'm not going to sit here and say it's totally done, but it is almost totally done.
No, I agree. I completely agree. Liverpool should not lose it from here.
While it isn't done, I will really will our team to go and do it and do something. And obviously, you want your team to win, and I'll be watching and hoping that Liverpool fail at every opportunity. But you just don't see it. It is what it is now with the squad that we've got. And I'm not mourning about injuries. I am angry at the fact that we haven't been aggressive because it isn't down to injuries now. It's planning. Injuries. Yes, injuries are inevitable. You've got to take that into account, that at some point every player in your first 11, 12 players isn't going to be able to play 38 games plus Champions League plus FA Cup plus whatever you want.
100%. Quick question before we move on from Arsenal. I turned TalkSpot on my lunch today, which is Monday, and I think it's important as to why I'm saying it. So I turned it on. I started watching TalkSpot on YouTube, with the TV show kind of thing. I'm enjoying that. It's a good way of doing it. I think they should have done that years ago. But anyway, they're doing it now. And as soon as I turned it on, it was Jim White and Simon Jordan sat there with the yellow ticker bar underneath that said, "Is Raheem Sterling done?"
Can I answer that for them?
Go ahead.
He's so done. It's sad. And it was one of the worst performances I've seen from a Premier League player ever. Embarrassing, and I don't want to lump on. I hate lumping on. This is a guy who's, if you think of wonder kids in the game, and especially English ones, how many of them go on to have the career that Sterling's had before the 30?
I think it's fair.
Like, he's won everything domestically that you can. Obviously, just missed out on City's treble season. He has been, and the stats will back him up, an incredible footballer. Not that I've ever been his biggest fan, technically. And I know you've joked in the past, and we'll give some context to it, but he's the most successful footballer who can't kick a football.
That's a very fair description of him. And we all agreed it was a good signing, by the way. Yeah,
because if he can just put up a few numbers like what he has done, even if he played in the sort of form that we'd seen at Chelsea, now, we'd be happy with it. We aren't seeing it. I'm sort of torn here. Part of me wants Arteta to give him a chance and let him get some minutes under his belt and really have a good run in the team now. Part of me wants that. But if I see another even 20 minutes like I saw anything, he come off on the 78th minute or something, which was about 70 minutes far too long, in my opinion, from what I've seen in that game.
Fair enough.
Just a horrible showing, and I hope he. Not that I hope he don't hear this, but I hope he sees his own performance in that match and looks back at himself like, "Fuck me, that was bad. I need to do something. I come in, I made all this noise, and all the windows about you're gonna, the videos about you're gonna see the best in me, and you're gonna, this is my time to shine, prove people wrong, stuff like that." And fuck me, it was so bad. And I was in the camp where I was very hopeful. Hasn't happened. I remember at the game Preston where I went to see it at Deepdale, people were willing him to score and do something every time he got on the ball, and he nearly scored only for, I think, someone to nick one off the line from him as well. It was so funny. But Arsenal fans in the stadium really want him to do well and really want him to succeed. It's just not happening. It isn't for the lack of support that he's getting. But I fear if he has a bad, say, 15 minutes against, we've got West Ham at the weekend. If he starts and has a bad 15 minutes, I fear we could revert to old ways, should I say.
Oh, yeah. Never far away. But anyway, fair enough. Well, speaking of terrible signings at Bolton, move on to Bolton.
Let's go to Bolton.
Keon Etete. A signing so bad, And it did. I think I said to you on here that I didn't want to dig him out after a 15-minute debut, but it was possibly the worst debut I'd ever seen in my life. So quite a lot's happened since then. So it looks as though Chris Markham, one of director of football, has been relieved of his duties. With with this signing, according to Mark Isles, the Bolton News reporter, playing a massive part in it, that essentially things weren't great, and that this signing. I know he's injured again, by the way, so he's out for another 5 weeks, Keon Etete, after that blistering start that he had. And that's essentially been the final straw for the Bolton Wanderers ownership, and they've parted ways. I don't think it's been confirmed by the club. Yeah, I must admit, we weren't on Sky. We're not on Sky Sports News with this kind of news, Bolton, and I haven't looked at my phone yet because I went from work straight to Slimming World, so I'm not seeing it confirmed yet. But it seems all but confirmed. And
if Mark Isles is talking about it, it's usually...
Yeah, exactly. He's not one to spread gossip. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's quite astounding. It's going to be a complete change in Bolton. And I believe Markham played a big part in the hiring of Steven Schumacher as manager. So, it really has come to a head with this signing.
Wow.
But, I said it was a bad debut, didn't I? I told you. It was a whopper. It was an absolute whopper.
Wow.
But, so there we go. Keon Etete.
Just quickly then, a brief one on Steven Schumacher. I do try and keep my finger on the pulse with Bolton Wanderers fans on X and Instagram and stuff, and people are positive. They're saying it's going to be, even if you don't get playoffs this season or you don't get promotion, that you in the honeymoon period, you got a few wins, but is that your feeling?
Yes and no. I think it's a good start. So I'll take the Wrexham Cup game out of the equation. Let's look at the league, right? Yeah. So it's 2 wins and a loss. And the loss was away at Exeter, which is so far away in it. As far as an away game goes, that is so away. So it's hard to judge that too harshly. The 2 games that we've won are against 2 teams that are in the bottom 4, which is the relegation zone in League One, for those that aren't League One experts. So, yes, it's encouraging, but the 2 games we had to come from behind to win. So we're still not looking amazing. We did play some good football, particularly in the second half of the Shrewsbury game, but I would say that their heads went down a little bit. We've got a really big game this Saturday against Leyton Orient, who are in 6th place, and we're at home. So if we've got real playoff aspirations, this is a big game. And it'll be a real test for Schumacher.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they turn you over as well earlier on the season?
No, that was Lincoln. We've made this mistake a few times on this podcast between Leyton and Orient and Lincoln, and they played each other the other day. A little laugh to myself seeing that. But no, Leyton Orient we won. That was first game of the season. I went away.
Oh, okay.
To Brisbane Road. We won 2-1 away, and we at that point came away pretty much thinking that automatics was ours already. After that game, we were wrong.
So, on the up, we're hoping after this weekend there'll probably be a bit more telling.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying the season's a write-off because I never ever believed that, and I think we should still get the playoffs. And then after that, it's anyone's really.
Yeah.
But this will be a good test of where we are.
I mean, the trick is, and I think what Bolton have failed on a few times now is their season's been tailing off when it's been coming to playoff times, and you've missed out to teams who are on the up coming into the playoffs late. And I think that Bolton might be going that way about it.
Maybe we should have gone up last year. We really bottled the final. There's no 2 words about it. Like that.
Yep.
That was a complete bottle job at the highest order. So I think that let's just see. Next Tuesday will be when we're on the podcast and people can hear us on Tuesday next week. That'll be a big teller. And then on that day as well, I believe is the Birmingham City game at home.
Okay.
When this goes out. So there's a big 2 games coming up.
Right. Let's rattle through a few more Premier League highlights. Let's move to that. So I'm just going to pump a few questions at you and you can tell me what you think. Cole Palmer. I'm going to speak on behalf of all fantasy football owners of Club of Cole Palmer here, but he's fallen off a cliff on here a little bit.
Well, he's cold Palmer in a different way now, isn't he? Yeah, he's struggling a little bit. I think Chelsea have lost the mojo a little bit, to be honest. So I don't know if it's just Cole Palmer, but he did look exceptional at times last year when the rest of the team wasn't performing, I would say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. He's had a year and a half of really good form, so I don't think everyone needs to panic just yet, but there's definitely a dip in his form.
I noticed something about him watching the Brighton game. It was Friday. It was Friday night football, wasn't it? That I realised something that we haven't seen from him, and that is sort of his head going down. And you're right that last season, when a lot of the Chelsea team's heads were down, he was the one lifting them, and he was, there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances to that, which is like he's new, he's trying to prove himself, he's the man, he's the one man in that team and that squad pulling Chelsea through, being a shining light. But I don't know, there was just something about his attitude, and maybe from Friday and maybe a couple of weeks leading up to that, he's got the odd penalty here and there, but he hasn't looked his normal self, and I don't know if his head's down, and I don't know whether I hope it's not in his character to just turn when his head's down. Maybe.
One to watch, I think. Too early to tell, but definitely one to watch.
Man City, are they back?
No.
Oh, Mama.
But it was really good though. He's hit the ground running, and we thought he might. We did talk about him quite a lot when they signed him. That his form at Frankfurt was amazing. So
yeah,
they were getting a good player, and it does take the pressure off Haaland. It gives them a new dimension.
I will say Newcastle looks really bad though. They look tired.
They just Eddie Howe just cannot manage a team against Pep Guardiola.
No,
despite him being so good. But the it just goes to pieces. And you'd think that Man City team's made for that Newcastle midfield to completely swallow them up, but no, they just go to pieces again away at the Etihad, no matter what.
And lastly, I think the big headline match from the weekend was 13th versus 14th in the Premier League, Spurs v Man United. James Maddison giving one back to Roy Keane, who'd said some stuff about him, scoring the winner. Ange had a bit to say about Amorim and all his injury problems. What did you make of the whole Tottenham Man United match and, resulting, what's the word? Stuff afterwards?
Yeah, it wasn't the best match to watch. It's quite enjoyable, but it wasn't good quality match, I would say. One thing I realised, sort of watching it, and I've thought this for a while, but it really came clear to me watching the game, is just the levels of Son are nowhere near what they were 2-3 years ago. And he seems to, because of the injuries, I think he's getting away with murder there, because I don't think he'd be in the team. He is nowhere near the player he was.
Well, he had been sort of dropped when Ange did have a full squad. Towards the beginning of the season, he had been dropped for a few games. Yeah,
he looked poor. And I think he really struggled with him and Tell, just with absolutely just squandering any kind of half chance by ballooning it over or putting it straight at the keeper. Tottenham could have been a lot more dangerous with a little bit more guile up top. So we're supposed to really missing Solanke for that.
Big time.
And it's interesting as well to see that with Spurs, they've moved Kulusevski back out wide. And I feel like he couldn't impact the game from that position and made me like he'd used to, because he's been used to playing centrally. So that's quite an interesting dynamic with Maddison playing a bit more forward again. But we'll see. That was quite interesting. Tottenham controlled the game, but United were really poor. And
what I did notice is that they did a few sort of panned out shots on Sky where you could see the whole pitch and every player on the pitch. And United's shape, I know Amorim, we've talked about this 3-4-3 that he likes, but they were a 5-2-4. Hold on, is that enough players? No, that's one. They were a 5-1-4 for a lot of that game, which was crazy. They were Casemiro in the mid. Was it Casemiro in the midfield?
It was Casemiro and sort of like Fernandes, who was whenever the play would stop, he'd go back to centre mid, then just would straight away run away from centre mid back into that right sort of inside forward position he kept taking up, even though he was supposed to play in central midfield. Ten Hag donut was back.
They had, it was, yeah. There was Garnacho, Højlund, Xerxes, and Fernandez as a front four, it looked like for most of the game, with Casemiro just watching the game fly past by him, and almost like a flat five for most of the game.
Højlund,
really mad.
Højlund is a lost cause. There is not. Yeah, I don't think there's a player there at all. I was really watching him and Xerxes in this game, and with Xerxes, I kind of get it. There is talent there with him. He can beat a player, and he's got a very good touch. I think his confidence is in the pits at the moment, so he's got no chance. Yeah. But there is talent there. With Højlund, I just cannot work out what he does. He's just completely anonymous. Completely anonymous. But a really, really poor player.
Every Man United fan I've spoke to is in the yes camp for this question, but do United... I looked at the latest supercomputer predictions today. They've got Man United finishing 15th this season, behind the likes of Palace and Everton. Is that worrying, given the amount of time that Amorim's had to come in and do something?
It is worrying. It's definitely worrying.
Stick with him is the question at the end.
Yeah, they should stick with him because they've gone that direction now. They should give it at least 18 months. But it is worrying. Definitely. I mean, it's essentially that game. Whilst it might not have seen a big game, that could be a very big game in May. Because essentially you got the two favourites for the Europa League there.
Yeah.
There's not many massive teams in that competition. So, if you're looking at that as a microcosm, you'd say Spurs, despite them being poor this year, they're miles ahead of Man United in terms of their ability on the pitch, with more players to come in. So, yeah, it is worrying, but you've got to stick with the Amorim project. You're in it now. You may as well give it a go.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything else that we've missed from this
the only thing I would just touch on is another good win for Everton. But we don't need to go into too much detail. But they're on fire, Everton.
It was, and part of me is a little bit happy for Moyes because when I've seen him when he was out of a job, he really came across well in some of his interviews and podcast appearances that he was doing, and the way he talks about the game. He isn't this dinosaur. He isn't this guy who's just a long ball merchant with a really solid defense full of big players who just want to oof people to the stands.
Well, no. I mean, they've got a really good player in James Garner.
Oh, yeah, he's really cool. I like him.
Yeah, he's not getting anywhere near the attention I don't think that he should be getting, and that's another player Man United have let go for PSR purposes, by the way. And he's looking at the real deal. Obviously, Dyche didn't have him for most of the season. He's pretty much come back as soon as Moyes has come in, but he's pulling the strings there. Like, he's looking a really good player, James Garner.
Yeah. I agree. I'll be glad. I think Everton will have a decent finish to the season. They won't be going down, and we'll all get to hopefully experience that new lovely stadium next season, which we're just waiting for that to get over the line, and then they can get there. Moyes gets to be the one to walk into it, which is, I think...
Is it having test events? I think it's having test events this weekend, isn't it? This week, the stadium. I think they've got...
pitches down, so they'll be doing some stuff. Yeah, it looks great. It's in a cool location. It's really smart. I like it. I do worry for Everton fans and travelling away fans. I do worry about traffic getting to and from it, because unless you're arriving by boat, you are going to be in for a fucking wait getting into Liverpool on this day. So, I hope they just don't do like Liverpool and Everton at home on the same day, because that's just going to be a nightmare.
I don't think that happens there, I don't think, but we'll see, yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Liam. I liked our chat about America.
Always a pleasure.
America on the way. So before we go, I would like to remind everyone, please like and subscribe and share and do all that good stuff. You can get in touch with us on Instagram, on X, on Facebook. Ring Liam's phone number. I'll put it out at the end of this episode. Turn up at his house if you want. I'll leave his address too. That's cool. If you got anything to say, we're gonna have some more. We're gonna have some fresh faces coming onto the podcast as well soon. We've got some interviews lined up with some cool fans, some cool accounts and other personalities from across this footballing world. So stay tuned. It'd be great to get as many people involved as possible. We've obviously got our 100th episode coming up as well soon, so we want to do something special for that. And you can find all the information to stay in touch at www.fixingfootballpodcast.com. And we will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.